Hello and welcome to this edition of Office Hours with the Practical Prof and friends. And as you know, each episode, if you're listening or watching on YouTube, is my interview with a friend. And this episode is no different. So I'm really happy and excited to talk today to Mark Ratcliffe. And Mark is the executive director of West Reading Main Street, which is sponsored by and part of the West Reading Community Revitalization Foundation. And we're going to talk to Mark in a bit about all the exciting things that are going on in West Reading. You know, community development is always, such an important part of our quality of life, you know, of being able to live, work, and play in a wonderful place that's fun, that's engaging, that's safe, that's just exciting. And West Reading's doing a really great job of that. And I wanted to feature Mark today. So Mark, welcome to the show and thanks for being with us.
Hey, Santo, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun conversation. You know, I remember as a kid, and a long time ago, that this in the 70s, it seemed like every small town in PA and probably others throughout the Northeast, we're going to do this revitalization. We're gonna, you know, redo the downtown. And oh my goodness, they knocked down buildings. They, you know, leveled streets, leveled buildings, and took away in Reading, for example, all the theaters and most of the theaters. And it didn't quite work the way people thought it would work. And so I love, and the little I've learned about Main Street over the years, the Main Street program and what it does to really boost downtowns and main thoroughfares and downtowns. So, you know, I think West Reading is a great example. So let's talk a little bit about that, you know, and in particular, Penn Avenue, kind of a main drag. It's fun. It's an engaging place to eat, to shop, hang out. I always thought it reminded me of Melrose in LA, because I could get out to LA a lot years ago. And it's just that kind of vibe. It was fun. You could sit out and could just people watch. But, you know, West Reading wasn't always like this. So what do you attribute its transformation? And I'm guessing maybe over the last 15 years it's been going on?
It's actually been longer than that. It's been 23 years since we first started our Main Street program. West Reading was in really rough shape 23 years ago. Our sidewalks were broken. Our light poles were old industrial looking light poles, and over half of our storefronts were empty. So back then, the US government created this Main Street program that was based on 4 principles. And we've used those principles moving forward. West Reading Borough Council recognized the need for it. They hired a Main Street manager, and that Main Street manager helped get some grant funding, which fixed up all of our sidewalks. We replaced all of our sidewalks throughout West Reading, added our light poles, added trash cans, and benches and things. Everything that you see in a dark green was all part of that initiative 23 years ago. And wow, it made a huge difference. And really, I think the key to our success over the years has just been really adhering to those 4 principles, and also working with Borough Council to make sure that we work hand in hand to improve our area. And honestly, it's grown, I think, more organically than anything else. We had a major investment 23 years ago, but since then, honestly, very little money has been put into our Main Street. It's really been the businesses and the West Reading Community Revitalization Foundation working together to host events, do promotions and marketing, and continue to drive the success that we see today.
Wow. So 23 years. Wow. Time does fly. So just again, the 4 things that kind of these pillars.
Yeah, the 4 pillars are something, again, that was derived from the Main Street. And they, you know, the approach that they take is one that relies on Economic vitality is one where you're working to make sure businesses are filled, things are going. Design, so we want to make sure our codes are structured correctly so that our design is, so that our storefronts are kept up and look a certain way and our signage is a certain way. We don't want to look like a strip mall. We want to look like a really neat downtown. Promotions that we talked about, making sure that the word is out about our great area, the events that are happening, in-store events that other retailers are doing, that kind of stuff. And then the organization, so meaning our foundation board and how we operate is a big part of it as well.
Wow. That's very cool. Very cool. The I guess, and tell me if this is inaccurate, but it seems like the focus has been, at least on Penn Ave, the vendors, businesses between what, 4th and 7th?
Yeah, maybe 3rd. Actually, we do stretch all the way down to 2nd. There are some businesses on 2nd Avenue as well that get involved occasionally.
So it's neat that the shift has gone, and I'm sure the businesses appreciate this too, that from the kind of the infrastructure stuff that you talk about to really supporting businesses. So what kind of services do the organizations that you represent, what do they provide to your members or to your vendors?
So as we mentioned, I work for the West Reading Community Revitalization Foundation. We know that that doesn't really play well. So we came up with Visit West Reading as kind of our moniker. And so we use our Visit West Reading as our .com, and then our new branding, which happened about 2 years ago, kind of helps promote West Reading in a really positive way. We came out with a 5-year plan, and there's kind of a 3-legged stool, I'll call it, that is part of our plan. One is that we want to be an arts community because we have 40+ murals, public art, plus we've got some, Art Plus Gallery and a number of other arts related businesses. We also, health is the second principle. And we have a number of health related businesses. We want to make sure we have a healthy community, and we have the largest health provider in Berks County in West Reading with Tower Health. And the third is entertainment. And that is really, our events that we do, the bars, the restaurants, making sure that West Reading stays entertaining and is a place for locals to go to connect and meet each other.
Nice.
Those are our kind of what we've been working towards.
Mhm.
But some of the things that we offer our area is our Main Street functions are, hosting these monthly events that we do, from the farmers market to Second Fridays to Art on the Avenue that's coming up. Art on the Avenue, June 17th, get my plug in there. And then the promotions that we talked about, which is a key element, part of that 4-point principle. And then working to keep our storefronts filled. So when things are empty, we're that touchstone for people to reach out and say, hey, how do we get in touch with this person? Or we see a business that we think would be great in West Reading, and we reach out to them and try to encourage them to move into the area. We also apply for grant funding, which we've received a couple of grants recently. They're going to help replace our light heads throughout West Reading to make the area brighter, but also move to LED, which will be a huge cost savings for the borough. We just continue to work on improving our Main Street and work with our Greater Reading partners. We want West Reading to be the best it can be, but we also want to be a good fit, a good partner for our greater metro area as well. West Reading's not looking to be everything to everybody. We're looking to be a good piece of our metro area.
Nice. And a role that I've seen you play a lot is that liaison role that really is helpful to bring partners in from outside West Reading to partner with folks inside West Reading. So that's
very
really
inclusive. We are all inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you're listening and or watching Office Hours with the Practical Prof and friends. And my guest today is Mark Ratcliffe, who's with West Reading Community Revitalization Foundation. otherwise known as the West Reading Main Street, and visit West Reading. So, I'm guessing you and the board and partners kind of get a chance to kind of, it's like, well, if we had our vision realized, if we were everything that we would want to be, and I know you talk about focusing on arts, healthcare, and entertainment, but what would West Reading look like? I mean, what, maybe, 5 years from now, maybe longer, but where do you think that would take us?
Sure. I've had the opportunity to do a fair amount of traveling, going to great areas like Carmel, California, or Nantucket, or Chicago area, New Orleans, and those places have really strong identities. You know who they are. Their building codes are a certain way, and they're a community that is unique and special. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in West Reading. I think arts is really leading the way. West Reading's an interesting area. It really grew up between Reading and Wyomissing. There was no real plan for West Reading in the early days. It was a connector between those two communities, and then has grown organically. You can kind of tell by the storefronts that they were mainly residents at one time, and then have grown into business storefronts. So my goal is to take the arts that we've developed and get our storefronts to look a little more creative, a little funkier. There are communities like that in Austin, Texas, that are really neat looking. And I think creating a community that people want to come to, and I don't mean just Berks County residents, but outside of the area, creating a thematic direction that people can really get their arms around and want to check out, because we're so cool and we've got so many neat shops. We were able to develop a 5-year plan a couple of years ago, which is working to improve our streetscapes, look at properties such as, and this is pre-explosion, but the Palmer property, they have almost a square block down there that is ripe for development. Delaney Circle also is another area that has some opportunity to improve. And we want to make West Reading an attraction that helps bring in dollars from outside our area, helps to retain our college graduates, and is an attraction and retention tool for our larger business community.
Wow.
Whether it's Lancaster or Allentown or anybody else regionally that you go to, they have a really special area in their community that is that area that you want to go and check out and everybody's proud of. And we think West Reading has that opportunity for Berks County.
Absolutely does. It absolutely does. And there's so many opportunities in the community, in the greater Reading community. I just wish folks would pay more attention to what you guys have done, because we can learn from that. We can definitely learn. So speaking of learning, I'm sure there have been, and how long, I forget, is it for you, how long have you been with the organization?
I'm in my 7th year.
7, yeah. So what gets in the way? I mean, I remember doing a lot of consulting, particularly with arts organizations, and the first thing you said in a needs assessment is, well, what do you need? What gets in the way? Oh, money, money, money. It's like, okay, but if I gave you $1 million and nothing else changed, and I come back next year, would you still need money? And usually my sense was that their sense was, yeah, they probably, if they didn't change, if they didn't learn, if they didn't grow from their experiences. So what do you think gets in the way sometimes for your mission, achieving your mission?
Yeah, like I said, we've been really fortunate. We've grown organically over 23 years. I mean, a lot of people would like to see a turnaround within 5 years, but it's taken us a while to get to where we are today. And there hasn't been a lot of money thrown into West Reading. I think as far as Berks County goes, majority of the money goes to Reading. And Reading certainly needs the help, but we haven't seen the improvement in Reading that we've seen in West Reading with very little dollars. So I'd love to see a little more funding coming our way. But aside from that, staffing is probably the biggest challenge. And I say that because the WRCRF works on a very small budget. And It's myself as the only employee, full-time employee, and then we have a part-time events coordinator that helps with our larger events like Art on the Avenue and Fall Fest. But it's really me getting those storefronts filled, filing for the grants, doing promotions when I can, so on and so forth. So I think being able to get more staffing, and that's where some dollars help. It's interesting when you apply for grants and things, nobody wants to fund operational costs. And I do understand that, but that's how things get done is
Yes.
with staff.
Somebody has to pay for the operational costs. Exactly.
Has to do it. Yep.
Yeah. I think there's so many strengths, and it's kind of interesting to hear that, sure, money would help, but look what you've done without the funding, compared to other communities who maybe have had more resources and haven't progressed.
I'll tell you I think one of the biggest things that has helped West Reading is everybody working together, from the businesses to our nonprofit that works to fix up our Main Street to the borough. And the borough's been a great partner. I mean, we sit down, we talk about it, and we make it happen. And that's one of the challenges I see in Reading is there seems to be a lot of divisiveness, and everybody has their agenda and what they want to accomplish, and things just don't move forward like I think they could.
And that's not uncommon in many communities. The ability to actually work together, collaborate, and for everybody to get what they need and most of what you want, is a real art and science to that. And I think West Reading is certainly a great role model for that.
Sure. And I say that not to put the city of Reading down. I know it's a challenge, and we're a community of 4,000 people. They're closer to 80,000 people. So considerably bigger, with bigger issues and problems and more challenges. I just, our size and being able to work together has helped us move forward.
Absolutely. And yet I think, my last question was going to be about the kind of the lessons other communities can learn. And I think when you get to look at it in such a smaller, more simple way as a community like West Reading, maybe becomes more clear what the basics are of making this work. Like you said, collaboration, cooperation, partnering, and even establishing those pillars. I think because there's a lot you could be, there's a lot you could focus on, but you've seemed to focus on what's there and just built on it, and really engaged and help grow the strengths you already have.
Yeah, and not to tell everybody how nerdy I am, but I was part of the Boy Scouts for a little over 10 years. I almost thought of being a professional with them. And I went to all the conferences. I was a total Boy Scout geek. And it seemed like every 3 years, their theme was back to basics. And I think that back to basics theme is important, that people tend to get stuck in these big ideas and where they want to go, and they drift away from their core mission. And it's, continually time for us to go back to those 4 points, look at them, how are we doing on that, and continue to push forward with, on our core principles.
Excellent. Well, this has been really fun, and I appreciate it. Any last maybe little tease, anything coming up exciting or you can talk about? I know the Avenue and Arts on the Avenue, but anything else you want to talk about?
Arts on the Avenue is happening, but we're also going to be working on improving our gateway, which is the entrance into West Reading. And we're looking to work with Berks Arts Council and with the Goggle Works to do a design competition. Like, how do you picture the entrance looking coming into West Reading? Nice. Who is West Reading as a community? And we want to represent that when you come across that bridge.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Mark. We've been talking with Mark Ratcliffe, who is the executive director with West Reading Main Street and West Reading Community Revitalization Foundation. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Santo. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. This has been Office Hours with the Practical Prof and Friends for our episode today on community revitalization in West Reading with Mark Ratcliffe. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.